Resident Evil is a long-running horror franchise that is extremely well known, spreading its reach beyond the world of gaming into the worlds of movies, TV shows, comics, and even novels. However, within the realm of gaming where this franchise began, one of these games was not only a drastic departure from the previous entries, but is commonly known as one of the most influential, if not one of the best, games of all time. This game is Resident Evil 4, and with its remake being right around the corner, I feel like it would be a good time to talk about the original. And I would also like to preface this by saying I'll mainly be talking about the base game, not any of the extra content. I don't have anything against the extra content, it's just to help keep this video within a manageable time frame. I'll be sure to touch upon these subjects partially, but don't expect a full review of separate ways at the end of the video. Not yet, at least. The game begins with a summary of what happened in the first three games, covering the Arklay Mountains, the virus infecting Raccoon City, and the subsequent bombing of the city. It then followed all with information about Umbrella, the company behind the events, stating that they've gone belly up, and that Leon Kennedy, one of the main characters from Resident Evil 2, is now working as a government agent. He was assigned to protect the president's family, but right before he started the job, the president's daughter, Ashley, got kidnapped. This guy just can't catch a break, can he? I mean, first day on the job, twice in a row, this happens. Leon gets a ride from some local police to a village in Spain where they believe Ashley is. Unfortunately for Leon, his search goes from bad to worse when the very first villager he questions gets hostile, followed by swarms of villagers beginning to hunt him down. Fighting off and escaping the villagers, Leon encounters this dog. As with every game, being nice to the dog is required. If you are not nice to the dog, people will break down your door and shoot you in the kneecaps in real life. So be nice to the dog. Leon continues to find some grisly sights and fights off villagers until the church bell rings, summoning the villagers off where Leon just wonders,
where's everyone going? Bingo?
Leon continues to try and find Ashley while fighting off villagers and avoiding instant kill quick-time events until he stumbles upon a man trapped in the closet. Immediately after freeing him, Leon meets the Undertaker here and decides to immediately kick him since it works so well with everything else in the game, only to get parried like a goon in an Arkham game, knocking both Leon and the prisoner unconscious. Lucky for us, the villagers suffer from keep the main character alive disease and decided to inject Leon with some virus and tie him up with the other prisoner. After awakening the prisoner, he introduces himself as Louise Sarah. Leon introduces himself and asks if Louis saw Ashley, which, surprisingly, yes, he did. Leon knows he's in the church, and that vital plot information is revealed. He's back on the chopping block. So through the power of quick-time events, Leon and Louis escape. And then Leon meets a very nice lad who just wants to make some business selling some guns, just a little dude, just chilling. Leon takes him up on the offer and fights off enough villagers to probably classify as a war crime, assembles a weird emblem door lock, because of course there's a weird emblem door lock, it's Resident Evil, and he presses on, eventually reaching yet another large house, where he gets attacked by the chief yet again. Only he lets him live, this time because he shares the same blood. After warning Leon to back off, Mendez leaves, and then Leon gets a call from Hunnigan explaining that Ashley's disappearance is related to a cult called the Los Illuminados, and that Leon needs to reach the church as soon as possible. Finding out more villagers, including the now iconic Chainsaw Man, he finally reaches the lake and sees our first boss fight, Del Lago. Del Lago is a giant sea monster, and the fight has him pulling you on a boat, with you needing to harpoon him to inflict damage, while also avoiding any obstacles on the lake. Getting hit will knock you out into the lake where you must swim back. Taking too long to do so will result in an instant kill. Otherwise, the boss isn't too confusing. Just avoid obstacles, throw a harpoon, and if he rushes you, throw one in his mouth. After one final quick-time event to stop yourself from drowning, Leon ends up catching pneumonia or something, and then he coughs up blood, hallucinates, and dies. Ending Chapter 1 of the game. Starting off Chapter 2, Leon survives his death and is actually alive. But the virus in his system starts to take hold, and Leon freaks out, as one would, only to then wake up, because it's all a nightmare. Yeah, that's right, you just got fake death twice in the same 10-minute period. Only Leon can do that. Hunnigan calls and says it's been 6 hours since your last transmission, and it seems like we've been unconscious for quite some time. So, with no time to spare, Leon heads out to finally try and reach Ashley, only to encounter Ganado, whose head splits open and turns into one of the aliens from Parasite. Going forward, this has a chance of happening with finding Ganados. They can even appear as regular Ganados, just grow a scythe blade for a face after getting their head destroyed. Going a bit further up, you shut off a dam, allowing you to walk across this waterfall, although you do get jumped by a storm of Ganado. Fight them off and run through the wind back before the boat while you encounter your second boss fight. And so quickly after the first, too. Leon isn't wasting any time fighting these giant monsters. This is El Gigante. He's pretty slow, but he hits like a truck and can take a lot of shots. So if you saved that dog from the bear trap earlier, he can show up to distract the boss for you, and it's pretty useful. After dealing enough damage, he'll fall over and expose the parasite from his back, so take advantage of this to deal as much damage as you can before the parasite returns. After killing El Gigante, Leon returns to the church, fighting off some wolves and solving a pretty simple light puzzle before finally coming to the rescue. Their time is cut short, however, when the leader of the cult ambushes them and reveals that both Leon and Ashley are infected with the virus. So if they return back to the States, it won't turn out pretty. Both of them narrowly escape death and dive out the window, desperate to escape. From this point forward, you control both Leon and Ashley, but it's not as hard as it sounds. Ashley pretty much sticks to your hip unless you tell her otherwise, and enemies try not to attack her so much as kidnap her. And you do get time to rescue her if this happens. But if they do, it's a game over. Even if she gets hit, she has her own health bar, so don't worry about dying because she stubbed her toe. Backtracking through the village, Leon receives word that their chopper has been shot down, but he should make his way to the extraction point anyways. It goes poorly, as Leon and Ashley get ambushed and they end up meeting Lewis inside this big house, where they have to fight off what feels like a couple million Ganado. Lewis is a pretty good shot, fortunately, and Leon should have enough ammo and healing items to survive this without any serious struggle, but after the fight, Lewis says he has somewhere to be and just dips. Definitely not suspicious or anything, he's just a man on a mission. Leon and Ashley leave the house, only to be met with a branching path. Reading a note nearby will tell you that one of the paths contains a bunch of villagers, and the other one contains a single El Gigante. It's up to you to choose which path to take, and they both eventually lead to the same place. But if I was you, I would take both. The chainsaw sisters can be cheesed by just trapping them in the pit and shooting the ladders, and the Gigante is far weaker than one you had from a boss, especially if you drop boulders on him. Doing both of them will also give you more treasures as a bonus, which if you've been combining together can create the full mask and sell for a high price. But, in the end, it's up for you whether you choose to fight a million weak guys or one really strong guy. Going forward, your path is blocked by a retinal scanner that you'll need to unlock. Because, Resident Evil, weird locks, these can kind of go hand in hand. Turning to the side, you can find a lift, and descending that will take you to where you need to go. If you have a sniper rifle, you can take out the villagers before they get close enough to attack you. So, makes this part pretty easy. Get to the bottom and stop the merchant for whatever supplies you would need real quick, because we have yet another boss battle coming up. This is the fight against the village chief, Torres Mendez. He traps Leon in the room by flexing his superhuman strength, but Leon shows him the power of exploding red barrels. Sadly, explosions aren't enough to bring down this mountain of a man, and even worse, he becomes his mutated form. What looks to be a fusion of Alistair Smythe's from Spider-Man and then the Centipede. He has a lot of reach and he can extend his torso to reach you on the second floor if you try to run, so this fight is all about staying mobile. Deal as much damage as you can to his spine and use strong weapons like the rifle or TMP if you have the ammo for it, or you can use a grenade to stun him, and eventually his body will split in half, starting phase 2 of the fight. In phase 2 he can't walk, but he will use his extra arms to swing around and grapple from the support beams of the building. If you could afford the rocket launcher, use it here and you can take him out instantly. Otherwise, keep moving, and upon his defeat he'll drop his glass eye that opens the previously locked door. Regroup with Ashley and they'll both make their way to the door, just be ambushed by even more villagers and a truck that will try to run you over if you don't stop it. The villagers are clearly becoming more and more desperate to try and stop you, So Leon and Ashley have no choice but to escape to the nearby castle, raise the drawbridge, and end off Chapter 2 of the game. Chapter 3 is a big one, and a lot happens here, so bear with me. The chapter begins with Leon and Ashley making their way to the castle, but before they can get inside the building, they need to cross this section of the walls. From this point forward, the game gets far more intense. Enemies will have ranged weapons, helmets, and plaga parasites that can instant kill you if they grab you. Moving across the walls, Leon and Ashley need to avoid catapults launching flaming boulders, as well as fight off a small group of cultists, and after doing so, they blast the door open with a cannon and make their way inside the castle proper. Leon will get another call from Hunnigan, who gets cut off in mid-conversation, before needing to solve another door with a key puzzle. Simply put, the right sword into the right wall while fighting off the cultists, and the room will open, allowing you to pass. Beyond that room, Lewis will finally catch up to you, offering a cure for the virus inside you, only to apparently have dropped it somewhere and he has to leave to go retrieve it. I kinda wish he would just stop coming and going like this, but I'm not his mom. Fight off a few more cultists and make your way to what I'm assuming is the main hall, where Ramon Salazar, owner of the castle and a firm believer in the cult, will contact you, letting you know that he doesn't care too much about what happens to Leon, but he needs Ashley alive. He immediately leaves, so Leon and Ashley need to look a little bit further, only to have their path blocked off, and they require an indentation to progress. So off the beaten path they go, needing to find some other way in. Along the way, they get blocked by some flames they need to disable, which puts Leon to fight this blind plaga infected known as a Garador. Before fighting off an entire room of swarming cultists in what's one of the more hectic battles in the game, lowering some stairs, going to another section of that same room, letting Ashley go by herself to crank some switches while Leon needs to defend her and himself before finally reaching safety. Here you can see the target practice minigame that unlocks for you to figure out what to do, and after deciding to, take a little break and pass some time, you go forward. But Ashley's infection acts up, causing her to vomit blood and push Leon away in fear, which unfortunately causes her to get caught in a trap. Did you get all that? Okay, good, because that was just the first section of Chapter 3. Going on to the second section of Chapter 3, Leon gets a call from Salazar, who lets Leon know that he has jacked the line and won't let anyone outside find out what's happening. Salazar sets off to have his men apprehend Ashley, while Leon needs to go to the sewer to fight out these giant bug monsters called Navistadores. These things are kind of annoying because they can turn invisible, climb on walls and ceilings, and they're fast enough to take you by surprise. So make your way through the sewer, fight these things off, and drain the water so you can wind back in the room you came from, but now you can access another room off to the side where another swarm of cultists are waiting. Fight them off until their leader escapes and mounts a gun, kill him, escape, and make your way to the door that he gave you the key for. And now you're going to have to solve another puzzle, but it's not honestly that hard. And then you can meet the man himself yet again. Salazar is there, he's surprised that you're alive, so he decides to send a small army after you. These depend from regular cultists, cultists with shields, cultists with helmets, cultists with crossbows, and even cultists with rocket launchers. He just really wants you to die right here in this room. But, Leon is built different and he just fights them off, disables the security system and presses on. Crossing the wall, Leon gets another call from Salazar, who's surprised that you're alive, and then just says, "Hey, I'm gonna trap you in this garden, alright? And you're gonna become food for my pets," which is honestly just kind of a dumb plan, because, even if he didn't have monster wolf dogs running around in here, the maze is not that complicated. So just make your way through the maze, fight off the wolf dog monsters, and then collect both halves of an emblem to make your way inside of a room, or Leon will get ambushed by none other than Ada Wong, from Resident Evil 2. And she basically just goes, "Hey Leon, remember me? Okay, cool, peace out homeboy," and then she leaves, ending off Chapter 3-2. Surprisingly though, in comparison, not much really happens in Chapter 3, Part 3. Leon sets off a trap that puts him in a cage match with the Garador. He fights off a room filled with cultists that for some reason have a rocket launcher just lying around. Please take it with you if you have the room. I cannot stress how useful this will be for an upcoming boss fight. And then he regroups with Lewis, who has finally recovered the sample and some pills that can halt progression of the virus. but sadly Lewis gets impaled through the chest by Sadler, who takes a sample and leaves. Leon vows to avenge Lewis, and the final section of Chapter 3 begins. Looking down at the room below, Leon sees Ashley is still trapped on the wall where she was, so I'm going to assume Salazar's men didn't look very hard for her. Break the clasp that she's held with, and Ashley will try to escape, only to be met with a locked door and a bunch of cultists trying to recapture her. Fight off the cultists, and their leader will have the key necessary for Ashley to escape. Through this following section, we'll actually play as Ashley by herself, and not Leon. And in the Japanese version, it even has fixed camera angles, which is cool, and it's a nice throwback to the original games. Ashley can't fight, but she can throw these lanterns to damage the cultists chasing her down, and it can even kill them if you do it enough. After opening the door, Ashley moves on to the next room, where she needs to solve the small puzzle to move on to my greatest enemy, a sliding puzzle. I have never been good at these, but I'm pretty sure someone out there is. Solve the sliding puzzle, replace the missing piece, and move on. Ashley will need to collect both this emblem piece to move on, and part of the wall emblem to reach the section that was locked earlier. Before she can escape, however, the suits of armor that were lining the wall will come to life and start chasing her down. Run past them, solve some quick time events to dodge the remaining ones, and meet back up with Leon, ending Chapter 3 for good. Leon gets another call from Salazar, who's basically just calling to flex that he thinks Leon and Ashley won't be on the run for long, and then our heroes move on to the following room, which has this thing. I don't know what it is, but it carries Leon to this room where he fights off a flamethrower cultist before collecting the final wall part of the puzzle from Chapter 3. If you want to, you can backtrack through the castle to the wall that Leon couldn't get over earlier and have Ashley open the door, giving access to the treasures within, and a magnum. Even if you already have it, I would say take it. It's an extra 6 shots, and you can sell one of them afterwards. When ready to return to the main hall, just walk on through and set the pieces inside the wall to open it. And through here we can visit this little area that Salazar talked to us from before, but it's not necessary, so we move on and ride the cart with Ashley to the next area, which includes another merchant and a target practice room. Once you're done, you'll notice another locked door on the far end of this hallway, and 2 branching paths from where the merchant was. On any difficulty other than easy, you need to go through both of these paths to progress. Going down the eastern path, you'll encounter a bunch of those suits of armor that attacked Ashley earlier. Complete the QTEs to avoid them, and get down the hallway where now you need to recover this grail in the center. Leave Ashley outside, nothing will grab her, and it's far safer that way. Retrieve the cup from the center of the room, and you'll get locked in, and you'll need to fight off 4 suits of armor. The secret is to shoot their helmet off, and then after the plague of parasites are exposed, shoot them again, and they'll go kablooey. Or you can shoot off every helmet at the same time and use a flash grenade. After these 4 are dead, 4 more will spawn. This time they're stronger Black Knight variants. They still die with the same strategy as before though. Completing this will earn you the King's Chalice, but you'll still need the Queen's Chalice for progression. So this time take the western room and you'll be met with a puzzle where 4 switches need to be weighed down all at once. Solving it by pushing the statues where they go and then having Ashley stand on one and move Leon to the other, and it will open the door where Salazar will be waiting for you, he'll taunt you, and then the spiked ceiling will try and fall on you. Shoot out the lights, open the door, and follow the path that Salazar ran through, and you will see some cultists driving a drill and trying to run you over. And it will insta-kill you if it does, because that's what drills tend to do. So kill both the drivers and let Ashley escape. This room contains the Queen's Chalice, and now we can finally open the door ahead and progress. Progressing further, we can see this big circular room that has a nest hanging from the ceiling. Walking in as Ashley gets abducted by a Nalvisador and Leon gets surrounded by a swarm of bugs. Killing them will drop this treasure, and destroy the nest will even drop a bunch of treasure, but remember that your safety comes first, and if you're like me and you hate these things, you probably don't just want to sit here and kill them all. So, pull this lever, shoot out the chains, and it will lower the bridge, and you can move on to eventually reach this outdoor section where Leon will need to climb a clock tower while avoiding catapults. Then, once inside the clock tower, you need to unjam the gears, lower the bridge, and you can cross into that room that Salazar took Ashley in. Unfortunately, Salazar has already gone through here, and instead you have to fight 2 Garradors, one of which is armored for some reason. And then you also have to fight some regular Ganado. Kill all of them, move on, and then you can fight Salazar, who decides to spring another trap. This time it's a trap door on the floor right above where you're standing, like a James Bond villain. But don't worry, because Leon has a grappling hook that he just never used for some reason, and he lives. Salazar is very, very not happy about this, and he sends his Verdugo to kill you. This is the first boss in Chapter 4, and he is extremely difficult. Once you start moving past a certain point, he will try to slice you with his tail from both the ceiling and the floor. And this is before the fight even starts. After you start the fight, you must have to survive either 4 minutes or until the elevator arrives. Then you can ride it. Or you can kill him, if you can. If you want to kill him, you have to freeze him with these liquid nitrogen tanks. After frozen, he can take damage, and he can only take damage while frozen. However, he takes a lot of damage. If you do manage to kill him, however, you will be rewarded with another combinable treasure and the freedom of knowing that he won't stab you from the ground on your way to the elevator. Boarding the elevator and riding up, we will see a cutscene of Sadler sending Krauser to take care of things, because he's pretty sure Salazar has failed by this point, which is a pretty fair assumption, all things considered. Pushing on a little bit farther, there is another merchant and another target practice minigame that you can waste your time with. When you're ready to move on, you'll make your way to a mining facility and see that your path is blocked. Flip the switch to lower the dynamite and the circuit breaker will flip, causing you to need to run over there and grab it. This will spawn in Salvador and his chainsaw yet again, but given that you have plenty of strong weapons by this point, take him down for the pesetas, set the dynamite, clear your path, and get moving. You now have to fight against two El Gigante, a normal one and the one wearing some BDSM gear. You need to kill both of them to proceed, but you can drop one in lava to make this easier on you. After we end up with this, we have a section that's pretty horrible for people like me who hate Novisadores because this area is swarming with them. They keep coming and they just seemingly have no end. I'm not a fan of it. But all you need to do is hit both of these switches and then cross the crushing pillars and it's on to the next section. Leon can find a note from Ada telling him that removing the plaga once it hatches is difficult, but it's not impossible. But Ashley's time is running short. We need to hurry to get to her, and luckily we aren't too far off, but the door is locked and we'll need the key to get in, which is hidden on the ground. So we need to open this trap door and move on to a room containing a small maze-like wall, some ganado, and then 2 chainsaw men. Luckily, the one chainsaw man can be sniped and the other one can be ignored altogether, or you can just blast him with the magnum a few times, whatever you prefer. Grab the key from the top floor where the one chainsaw man resides, and it will open a door to the mines where you can enter a fast-paced shootout with several villagers and even chainsaw men entering the minecarts trying to stop you. Just keep fighting them off until you reach the end, where you'll need to pass the QTE to not only jump off the minecart, but also drag yourself up. When you're finished, grab the key and make your way back up top, place it in the door, and prepare to enter the end of Chapter 4. Leon rushes further in to find this giant statue of Salazar that at first might not appear to do much, but upon trying to leave, some ganado will activate it and lower the floor, preventing you from moving forward. Cross the platforms while flipping the switches to keep raising the floor and then make a run for it. Or more accurately, a sprint for it, because the statue will start chasing you, and it will bring the entire castle down with it. So get past this locked door and then continue to run until you'll need to do another QTE just like in the minecart section. But once you're done, you're free from the statue, and you can finally move on. Salazar is right behind this door, and unfortunately Ashley is not with him. He claims that the ritual is about to start, and Ashley will soon be a full-fledged member of the cult. So then Leon stabs him in the hand, which is a completely valid response. The Verdugo throws the knife back at him, and then Salazar escapes, up into an elevator, and Leon will have to take the long way up. Fighting off every last desperate cultist in the way, and sadly, he is too late. Salazar fuses with the Queen Plagas, but beforehand he tells you that Ashley has been taken to an island and the ritual is over. Now, this boss fight against Salazar, not too difficult. Like, there's one instant kill move, but otherwise none of the attacks do much damage and they're all pretty well choreographed, and most can even be dodged with a quick time event. Just damage the eye on the Verdugo head to stun it and prevent it from the instant kill, and then whenever Salazar is vulnerable, just shoot him with whatever powerful weapon you have and he'll just die. Leon will move on, find a way to an island only to be met with Ada in the speedboat, and we're now moving on to the final section of the game, Chapter 5 begins with Ada leaving Leon, as she tends to do, but not before Leon arrives at the island Ashley was taken to. Immediately after making it to land, Leon gets another call from Sadler, who is unfazed at Salazar's death, and then going forward will see Ashley being carried away. So naturally you want to go after her, but sadly the door locks behind her and the enemies of the island don't play around. One of them even busts out a minigun to try and kill you. It's insane. Fight them off until you can open the door, avoid being crushed by a boulder, and head further in. There are a lot of enemies on the island that you have quite a way to go, so you gotta keep moving. Chapter 5-1 took me almost an hour to complete, and it's basically all gameplay. After a few minutes, you'll reach a facility that I'm assuming was some sort of prison or lab in the past, and if you go slightly forward, you'll have a guy that's on fire jump out of the oven and try and grab you. They never explain why he was in the oven, he just was. Going to the next room, we can hear Ashley screaming for help, but we also encounter a new, bigger, and armored Granado. Make your way to the room and you'll see it's not actually Ashley, just the security camera footage, but the Granado in the prison will cut the feed. Luckily though, since we know what room she's in, we can track her down. Move forward and you'll find another save room complete with the final target practice minigame if you want to complete your bottle cap collection. After this, keep heading to Ashley and continue to fight off anything you see until you make it to a hallway that just feels wrong. You can't really explain why, it just feels wrong. It doesn't take much to figure it out though. You'll need a key card to progress through the rooms, so entering the only unlocked door shows you a creature on the table. Right now he's harmless, but he'll be dangerous soon enough. Unlock the door next to him and move to the room next door where you will find a note detailing the creature's name and its weakness. This is a regenerator, and as the name implies, it will regenerate unless you can destroy the plagas hidden within. Grab the key card and prepare to defend yourself. The regenerator will wake up from the room next door and begin to hunt you. And you currently don't have a way to target its weakness effectively, so avoiding it is your best choice. These things are probably the creepiest enemies in the game because of the design and the atmosphere they can create. You can hear their breathing before you can even explore the room, and due to not being properly damaged them without the thermal scope, the first two you encounter can throw anyone who isn't used to a survival horror game off their feet. Get to the freezer where you can rewrite your card key to get into the next room, and pick up the thermal scope for killing the regenerators. Simply equip the scope and aim at the glowing red splotches on their body. Now that you have a key and a weapon against the regenerators, press on to the garbage chute room. I personally think it's kind of funny to grab some of the enemies and throw them down the chute with the claw, but it's not something that you have to do. Make your way to Ashley and you'll see that the door is locked, so you off to grab the key we go. Fight off even more enemies and encounter an Iron Maiden, which is basically just a regenerator but with spikes. Same strategy as the regenerators, but just don't let it get too close. Kill it and it will give you the key to Ashley's room, allowing you to finally rescue her. Leon and Ashley begin their escape, only for a note from Ada to arrive in the style of what's probably the most skilled paper plane throw in existence, letting Leon know that they can escape through the waste disposal vent. So of course Leon and Ashley do just that, and Ashley is clearly not amused by the situation because who wants to jump down a stinky trash chute and then land in some more trash? They land safely and Leon calls her dummy thick afterwards, which is definitely a Leon moment, and then they move on, only to encounter some more regenerators and some dumpsters that need to be crossed. Make their way through, fight off some regular enemies, and wind up in front of this room with a wrecking ball. We need to fight off the room of enemies while also using the wrecking ball to slam into the wall to reveal the door. Leon or Ashley can operate it, it doesn't matter. Go to the next room, we'll encounter a hallway of 2 more regenerators, and then press forward to reveal a moment where Ashley reveals that she knows how to apparently control heavy machinery, because she drives a bulldozer while Leon needs to fight off an army of Ganado. They even have a truck try to run you over. Again. Because it clearly worked the first time. This whole section is just Leon fighting off a horde, and they break it up a bit with the lift section, but then you're immediately back on the dozer, and once again, you have to fight off the horde again. But, another truck comes by, because, the first 2 times went very well. It gets stopped, and Leon and Ashley are able to escape through the building that they crashed into, just to run to Sadler, who shows that he has control over the plagas by stopping Leon in his tracks, and then taking Ashley yet again. Leon begins to move on, while we see a cutscene showing Ada and Krauser discuss their true plans. Krauser doesn't trust Ada at all, and he would kill her and hand her off to Wesker if needed. Oh yeah, did we mention Wesker is back? Wesker is back. He's operating behind the scenes. He's responsible for both Ada and Krauser. Okay, and then we flash back to Leon, who fights his way until he meets his Krauser. This is the legendary knife fight, and while the entire thing is a QuickTime event, it is very cool, and we get a bunch of established dialogue between the two characters. So they fight, Krauser continues to exposit some dialogue, and he even ends up gaining the upper hand on Leon. And that's when Ada comes in. She comes to the rescue and allows Leon to escape, and then Leon moves on to the laser hallway, and then he reaches Sadler's throne room. On to the next set piece, Leon needs to defend himself from whatever this thing is. I don't know what it is. It looks disgusting. Reminds me of the chimeras from Fallout 3. Flip both of the switches and fight off the monster and unlock the door and then begin the next section of the platform. Make it to the next section, the one you're on will drop off and you move on. You do this and then you'll move forward until you reach the true boss fight against the monster. Kill it and then keep on trucking until we meet Krauser again. Krauser will tell you that Ashley is right behind him, but the door is locked. And you need 3 keys. Krauser has one of them. The fight isn't much of a traditional fight because, unlike just attacking you, he alternates between ranged attacks, with shooting you with either a gun or this crossbow that explodes, or he'll try to rush you with his knife. In counterpoint, your knife will deal massive damage to him, and is a really great counter when he tries to rush you. Continue to explore the ruins, fighting off Krauser and whatever else you find, and collect both of the emblems, and the Krauser will mutate and soften explosives, starting the final phase of the fight. He'll pretty much only use melee in this form, but your knife is still extremely overpowered against him. Kill him, take the last emblem piece, and get out before the place blows, so you can finally begin the last section of Chapter 5. Leon gets contacted by Sadler once again, revealing that he never trusted Krauser and was just using him. And with Leon being the one who managed to kill him, Leon should become Sadler's guard once the Plagas takes over. Leon doesn't like this idea and he heads forward, only to see an entire army of infected that's too much for even him at this point. It genuinely seems like a loss for Leon when a backup chopper that got called way back before finally arrives and starts mowing down Ganado like nothing. This is Mike, and he'll be your partner for a large chunk of this chapter. He doesn't have a health bar and you can't issue him commands, but he will use his gun to kill whatever he can. Make your way through the level with Mike as your air support, fighting off all the ground troops you can, while Mike takes care of the mounted minigunners, and eventually Leon will find himself ambushed by a group of infected. Mike will take them down, and then sadly get blasted with a rocket launcher and die. Sadler compares Mike to a fly, and it kinda pisses Leon off, which is understandable. Moving forward, we encounter Ada once again, and Leon proceeds to flip out and choke her, and not in the way that Ada likes. She stabs him in the knee and he gets away, and she says that he needs to get the virus out of his system as soon as possible. Leon rushes forward to try and reach Ashley, encountering this bag that moves for no explainable reason along the way. It isn't narratively important, and there are other things like the regenerators that I could talk about, but I figured this thing is important. Fight off the 8 million Ganado that are between you and Ashley until you two finally meet back up. Sadler will pull some anime kung fu on Leon and prepare to kill him before Ada manages to save his life yet again. So escaping with Ashley, they both make their way to an area where they can remove the Plagas from their body. Either this process is very easy, or Leon and Ashley can moonlight as neurosurgeons because they manage to remove the parasites from their body and finally end Chapter 4. The final chapter has begun. We have a small note detailing Sadler's plan to control the world, and then it's off to the final battle. Stop by the merchant, upgrade whatever you need, and get going. Leon is smart to leave Ashley behind, because upon arriving, he sees Ada held captive. Sadler tries to stop Leon, just to realize that Leon is now free from the infection. Leon frees Ada, and the Sadler has decided to end it once and for all. In typical Resident Evil fashion, he mutates into a giant monster and is ready to go. Now, anyone who's played a video game before could probably recognize that his weak point is the giant eyeball inside his mouth, but in regular boss fight fashion, he keeps his mouth closed and you need to stun him to open it. Stun him by damaging his legs, ramming him with beams from the construction work, causing explosions, Whatever you can, and then attack the eye by either shooting it with a strong weapon or getting close and doing the necessary button prompt to do a special melee attack. Do this enough, and then Ada will drop off a rocket launcher for you to use, blast him with the rocket, and he'll explode, leaving us finally free from the nightmare. Or so we thought. Ada steals the virus from Leon and sets the island to explode, but she gives Leon the keys to a jet ski so he can leave. Rush back to Ashley, take her to the jet ski, and get going before the island explodes. This section isn't too difficult, but it does require you to go fast. After escaping the island, our heroes ride off into the distance, and the game is finally over. This was Resident Evil 4. And despite its differences to the previous mainline entries, we can still see elements of that inspiration present. From things that stay the same, like backtracking for hidden items and puzzles to unlock doors and items, to things that have changed, like the new over-the-shoulder camera or the new method of inventory management. It's clear that the game felt like a Resident Evil game, even back then, albeit a more action-focused one. The game's legacy on third-person adventure games cannot be stated enough, with even games different going forward and taking elements from the design. The Resident Evil 4 remake that comes out tomorrow might be a more modern take on the game, using what the franchise has learned over the years since, but the original game remained popular for 20 years for a reason. It's a genuinely good game, and the impact it had changed the direction of the franchise and part of the industry as a whole. I can't stress enough how excited I am for the remake, but even more so I can't stress my love for the original. And hey, I know it's been 5 months since my last video. I kind of got a bit carried away with other things. But, if this is what people enjoy, I'll keep at it. Just yell at me once a week to get on it, I'll probably cry and start working. Hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.